radio and 1089 and 1053 AM. Talk Sport.
In the morning. Welcome to Talk Sports. It's Mike Graham. I'm here, of course, until 6. And then Nigel Botherway will be along with the Fisherman's Blues. Now, coming up very, very shortly, I'm going to talk to Mike Byrne, who's in Palm Springs, California. He's a photographer who has basically taken pictures of the staggering and fascinating moving rocks, rolling stones, if you like, of Death Valley. It's 50 degrees centigrade sometimes in Death Valley, which is, of course, also 282 feet below sea level. It's a fascinating place. And Mike, for years, has been chronicling this movement of stones, which is a bit of a mystery. Now, I don't know whether he's going to explain exactly how it works or precisely what weather conditions and atmospheric conditions cause it to happen. Many of you have been messaging me earlier through the show saying, oh, it's not a big mystery, I've watched it on YouTube. Well, I don't know what you've watched, but let's talk to Mike right now and find out what he makes of it all. Mike, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much for joining us at this late hour. I know it's not quite as late where you are, but...
I just finished supper. Things are good.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, it's a fascinating situation, this. I've seen your pictures. How long have you been taking pictures of these rolling stones?
For the last couple of years.
Okay. And how did you sort of first learn about them? Was it something that was being studied or what?
Where I live in the high desert of California, I'm adjacent to the Death Valley, and for years we've been hearing stories and seeing other photographs, and the racetrack is storied. It has a lot of history, so some mates of mine decided that we need to go out and see.
Right.
So we did.
And is it something? Is it one of those things that you could only really, if you weren't looking for it as such, you could only see it from high up, the trails that they leave, or can you see it from the ground?
Actually, you can't see much when you're a couple of hundred feet above the lake bed floor.
Right.
But then depending on how large the rock was, how heavy it was, how big of a skid mark it left in the sand, that type of thing. But there have been some very clever photographers over time that have gone out and done very long exposures without a moon, middle of the night, see the star field, and I'll tell you, it really makes you believe that the aliens have been at work. However, you show up out there and you actually see what's there, you can tell it's one of nature's cool little wonders.
Right, and so it is explainable as far as you're aware. I mean, do you actually see them move, or do they move fitfully?
I wish we could see them move. I really do. I think there are people who have tried to set up cameras, video, whatever. The weather, I'm sure, as you know, can be very violent, very extreme. There's a small hill with a small cliff, and I'm talking like maybe 150 feet off the surface of the lake bed. Southern California is famous for earthquakes, right? So the ground shakes, bowling ball-sized rocks come down the side of the hill or from a rainstorm and the erosion, and they roll to the bottom of the hill. Now, what is very predictable and very evident if you're out there is the wind, and boy, does it blow. It will knock you over,
really?
As a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there to slow it down. So the explainable part is if you can endure a storm during the winter, and we're coming into the winter storm months right now, that lake bed will get wet.
Right.
And the scientists that have done the studies will tell you the composition of the soil. You add water to it, it becomes axle grease slippery.
Okay.
All well and good. So the lake bed gets wet, gets a foot of water on it. The water evaporates a little bit, leaving the slimy lake bed behind. The big windstorm comes up, and depending on the direction that the wind blows, I think you've seen in some of the photos the tracks that go in different directions with the same rock in the center. they slide.
But
No
they don't
different
all
than you-
slide in the same direction, though.
No, they don't. You can have wind on one side of the lake bed that goes one way on the compass, and 500 yards away it can be going another direction on the compass, and it will move the rocks. Now,
Yeah.
people haven't really seen this, but it's like looking at the evidence forensically and then doing the math, and then you see actually how it can happen. Now, the YouTube film that people have seen, somebody had actually gone out after a winter storm, and you can see the water rolling back and forth. That's turning the lake bed from basically mud to slime,
Right.
surrounding the rocks. But people typically won't stay out there when the wind blows. I know that, for me personally, I'm not going to risk my camera gear in a windstorm that will knock me. And, I weigh over 225 pounds.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to have to go to the next county to fetch my gear.
No, indeed. So there's still an element of mystery to this whole thing. I mean, presumably, depending upon the events or the weather events of any particular day, these rocks may move a fair amount, or they may not move at all, or they could move in all sorts of different directions, but it's not something that goes on constantly, in other words.
No, it doesn't. It is seasonal, but I have to tell you, when you are in the middle of the desert, you are hours, like several hours away from anything else that's living or breathing, except maybe wildlife that
Right.
I'm not sure you'd want to meet out there. I don't either, but on a moonless night with just a few stars out, it's a little creepy out there.
I imagine
so you
it-
wonder about the alien
I
element.
imagine it must be, and also, of course, it's below sea level, which is kind of weird in itself, isn't it?
The lowest part of Death Valley is below sea level, but the Racetrack playa is above sea level
Okay.
by, I think, about 500 or 600 feet. But classic Death Valley, where I live north of Los Angeles in the Sierra Nevada mountains, it can be 35 degrees Fahrenheit in the afternoon, and you take the drive 4 hours away to where the racetrack is, and now it's 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're taking off all your cold weather clothes.
Right. Wow. Fascinating
So
place. I lived in America for 10 years, but I never got to Death Valley, I'm afraid. So I now have to go and look at it because it sounds tremendously exciting.
It actually is. And the trip itself, hire cars are fun because you can give them back and say, gee, I don't know why the suspension's hanging out of them. I think of the guys that I watch on Top Gear now that we can see it here in the States, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they would have an absolute ball driving
I'm
on
surprised,
that road.
actually. In fact, that's probably a good idea that you've just given them, if they're listening, that they could go out to Death Valley and do something, because it's an amazing-looking place, isn't it?
I could see Mr. Clarkson in some kind of hire car Subaru trying to drive it like a rally car.
Yeah, that could be good. That could be very good. Well, listen,
30 miles on some of the roughest roads I've ever seen will bring you to some of the most beautiful country you've ever seen.
Yeah, and we do like something which is not entirely explainable by science, I must say, Mike. Thank you very much indeed for spending the time to explain it to us.
Well, thank you very much for taking the interest, and I'm glad you enjoyed the images.
No problem, Mike. Thank you very much indeed. That's Mike Byrne, photographer from Palm Springs, California, talking about Death Valley. It sounds a fantastic place, doesn't it? I really think that we should all go out there, perhaps, and hold some kind of strange meeting. Can you imagine if you went out there camping to some of these places where it really is absolutely like nothing else on Earth? And it's like the moon. The landscape sounds rather like the moon. 08717 2233 44. Loads more of you want to get on. I want to talk to loads more of you. Let's go to David, who's in South Lanarkshire, who's been waiting very patiently. Hello, David.
Hello, Mike. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm fine, yeah. Just to talk to you about, you mentioned earlier on about a goal that was disallowed with, was it Sheffield United?
Well, it was actually Dick from Deptford who was talking. He first of all talked about the Bristol Crystal Palace game. Then he
Right.
talked about a Tottenham Man United game. I'm not sure if you mentioned Sheffield United, to be honest.
Right. But I'll be honest, I don't know. But just to tell you that, and don't laugh here.
Okay.
There was a game involving Partick Thistle.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know who, but the ball flashed in,
Right.
cracking goal, and the ref went goal kick.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
did it come back
And-
out again, or did it stay in?
No, it totally came back out again.
Right.
And